Y'all ready for this?
Y'all ready for this?
Kick in the dance music. In 2017, a crack apologetics unit was sent to prison by a social media tribunal for logical fallacies they didn't commit. These men promptly escaped from a maximum security stockade to the Facebook underground. Today, still wanted by atheists, they survive as soldiers of fortune. If you have a problem, if no one else can help, and if you can find them, maybe you can hire the Mentionables. I'm Joel
I'm Nick
Purchase.
Peters.
I'm Caleb Johnston.
I'm Tyler Vella.
Today on the Mentionables, we kick it over to Nick, who will put us in the hot seat by peppering us with listener questions only he has seen. But first, let's play a game of love song, worship song, and then do a little thumbs up, thumbs down. All right, so for everybody but Caleb, love song, worship song is a game in which I read lyrics to a song, and then you have to decide whether the song that I just read was a worship song or a generic pop love song.
Is it a love song? Is it a worship song?
Okay, first lyrics. Here goes. My one desire, just to be where you are, now and forever. It's more than a song. My one desire is to be with you, is to be with you. The one thing I ask is to be with you. The one thing I ask is to be with you. All right, those were the lyrics. Any guesses as to whether that was a love song or a worship song?
I'm going to sadly guess worship song.
Okay.
I'm going with worship song also. I was tempted to wonder if it came from 50 Shades of Grey instead.
Okay, Caleb, you going with worship song too?
Yeah, I'm going with worship song too, Joel.
Okay, everyone was correct. That one was titled One Desire by Hillsong. Okay, second one. The lyrics are, it's a beautiful feeling I've got deep inside, a flame that will last forever, together you and I. They'll never tear our love apart, our bond will never break. Do you believe in the power of everlasting love? Promise me this forever, we'll always stay this way. We can start at the end of time and do it all again. I'm all yours, and there will never be another one, 'cause I'm eternally yours. My heart's aflame, and it's burning in your name. Even though the sands of time, my love will always grow, and I won't let go. No matter if you're near or far, our bonds will never break. Promise me this forever. We'll always stay this way. We can start at the end of time and do it all again. There never will be another one, because I'm eternally yours. It's a beautiful feeling I've got deep inside, and there will never be another one, because I'm eternally yours. Okay, so love song or worship song?
I've heard like 4 heresies, so I'm going to hope that it's love song.
Okay, is that your final answer?
That's my final answer, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
Nick?
I thought I might have heard this one during the Trump-Clinton debates, actually. I'm going to go with a love song.
Okay, Caleb, you love song too?
Yeah, I'm love song too.
Peer pressure. All right, that was Eternal Love by Michael Learns to Rock, and yes, that was a love song.
Sweet.
Yeah, everybody's doing well so far. Yesterday, or the last podcast, I managed to trip Caleb up on one song, so we'll see. All right, this next one. If I could find assurance to leave you behind, I know my soul would fade, and all my doubts is a staircase for you. Open out of it the space. The first step is the one you believe in. The second one might be profound. I'll follow you down to the eye of the storm. I'll follow you down. While we are passing through space, I know I won't fall from grace. I'll follow you down. You can have the money and the world and the angels and the pearls, even trade my heart for color blue, just like the flower we never built, the shadows of all the guilt. When the other hand was pointing at you, yet the first step is the one you believe in. The second one might be profound. I'll follow you down to the eye of the storm. Okay, love song or worship song?
Oh, I don't even know what half that meant. I'm gonna still stick with love song on that one.
Okay.
Yeah, I heard them mention doubts in there, and I think that's anathema for a worship song, because, you know when in the church is supposed to have any doubts whatsoever. So I'm going to go with love song.
Okay, Caleb, you love song?
Yeah, definitely on this one.
Okay, that was I'll Follow You Down by Shinedown, and yes, that was a love song.
Sweet.
All right. We'll do. two
Caleb was
more.
definite. I think that's like number one on his iPod right now.
Not quite, but
Number two.
Upset at
I'm pretty
least,
sure,
right?
I'm pretty
Number
sure I've
two,
heard him
right.
sing it to Tyler before.
Whoa. No bromances, dude. All right, here's the next one. Maybe I'm amazed at the way you love me all the time. Maybe I'm afraid of the way I love you. Maybe I'm amazed at the way you pulled me out of time and hung me on a line. Maybe I'm amazed at the way I really need you. Maybe I'm amazed at the way you're with me all the time. Maybe I'm afraid the way I leave you. Maybe I'm amazed at the way you help me sing my song. Write me when I'm wrong. Maybe I'm amazed at the way I really need you. Okay, love song or worship song?
Oh gosh. It's so bad either way. I don't know. It's a shot that I'm gonna stick with love song one more time.
Okay,
Let it ride.
Yeah, I'm still going to stick with love song. But it's still a better love story than Twilight either way.
yeah, no doubt. Caleb, love song?
yeah, I gotta go love song on this one too.
Okay, that was Maybe I'm Amazed by Paul McCartney. So clearly a love song.
Are you sure Paul McCartney had some great worship songs back in the day?
True. All right, next one. He is jealous for me, loves like a hurricane. I'm a tree, bending beneath the weight of his wind, and I realize how beautiful you are and how great your affection for me. So heaven meets earth like a sloppy wet kiss, and my heart burns violently inside my chest. I don't have time to maintain these regrets when I think about the way he loves me. Love song or worship song?
Oh gosh. That's definitely, well, it sounds like boyfriend theology to me, so I'm gonna say worship song.
Okay,
I've actually heard this one, so I know which one it is. So I think I should sit this one out.
okay.
I'm gonna go worship song on this one too.
Okie doke. That was How He Loves Me by John Mark McMillan. And yes, it's a
Yep.
worship song.
Oh, gag.
All right, we'll leave it off at there.
Can I unknow that?
Good game,
Hey,
everybody.
at least you hadn't heard it before. I've actually heard that one sung in a church service, okay? It is proof that hell exists.
All right, good game, everybody. You got 100% on that one. I'll need to find harder ones next time. All right. So the next section we're going to do is a thumbs up, thumbs down for any listeners who paid attention to our last podcast and also to the Sunday Night Lives.
We have a
did.
podcast?
Thumbs up, thumbs down. We do
Wow.
indeed. You know, we've actually made that joke that nobody in the team listens to the podcast, so we've actually intentionally sat there and trash talked each of you during the podcast because we
Awesome.
know you would hear it.
Wait. Don't include me in that, Joel.
In fact, well, never mind. Fair enough. Caleb actually does listen to the podcast. He was the first one to review our podcast, in fact. All right. Thumbs up, thumbs down is when we read a statement that's been submitted by listeners to us. It's a statement, not a question. And then we each decide whether we give it a thumbs up or a thumbs down. So I'll let you guys go first before I talk. The first statement is, when speaking on evolution, it is better to speak about artifacts than evidence. Let's start with Nick. What do you think? Thumbs up or thumbs down?
Oh, geez, I'm not even sure what it really means entirely. So since I'm not sure what it even means by artifacts or evidence, and since I always think it's best to speak on evidence, I'm going to go with thumbs down.
Okay, thumbs down for Nick. And he gave us his reason. Caleb, thumbs up or thumbs down? Do you need to hear the statement again?
No. I'm gonna go thumbs down on this one.
Okay.
Because I think artifacts would probably refer to very specific physical evidence versus all-inclusive evidence. I always lean towards the kind of all-inclusive route, which may not just be physical evidence.
Okay. Tyler, thumbs up or thumbs down?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Caleb on this one. I think that likely with artifacts they mean some type of physical, something from a dig that you pulled out of the ground. When I think you have textual evidence and all kinds of other stuff, so I'm gonna go thumbs down on that one.
Okay, I don't think it's talking about artifacts in terms.
Well, you're wrong, Joel.
Yeah. But for instance, when you're doing scholarship in the Gospels, we'll talk about artifacts within the Gospels. And so I think it's probably a little bit more general than that. So for instance, if they're talking about gene structure and they're talking about, say, junk DNA in the genes, it could be talking about artifacts, not in the literal sense of things dug from the ground, but artifacts within the genes, meaning little pieces that when put together could possibly indicate a larger trend. So honestly, I think both of the terms have their usage when speaking of evolution. So I suppose I'll give this a thumbs down.
Why do you got to ask me? Why do you got to ask me an evolution question, Joel?
Hey, it wasn't me. It was a listener submitted question.
Listeners,
We have listeners?
Well, as long as you discount the mentionables, I'm sure somebody's grandmother listens to this.
Joe's mom listens to the show, no doubt.
Insert cricket sound effect.
Yep. Okay, next statement. Social media in general has an overall negative impact on society. Nick.
There are a lot of positives, I think. I mean, we're able to actually give, okay, that might not be the best example of a positive, but I think it depends on a person, so I think it's a mixed bag. So since the whole claim is overall positive, I want to give a thumbs down because it's too much of a mixed bag.
Okie doke. Caleb.
I'm going to go with that wiggly thumb in the middle because jury's still out on this one a little bit, I think. There's some positives, like Nick mentioned, but then we also see a lot of negative effects as well. And which one is going to end up, working out in the end, I'm not sure yet.
Okay, Tyler?
Fine, I'll be the one pessimist. I think mixed bag, overall negative, because it actually undermines the ability of people to even think about things rationally, critically, which is, step one to destroying a society. So I'm going to say overall negative.
Okay. So it says overall negative. I'm giving that a thumbs up because you can look at the studies and there is an epidemic of loneliness because people are substituting social media for social interaction, and that has negative impact on a person's social interaction, which is a necessary part of mental health. So yeah, I would give that a thumbs down. I can also see in the time that I was a teacher that students were too distracted by social media to actually pay attention in class. And, there was a lot of drama that would go with social media.
Can you repeat that? Someone just posted
on the other
something
hand,
on Facebook. Can you repeat that? I didn't hear it.
No, Facebook is for old people. They're more like Instagram and Snapchat. At any rate, on the other hand, if it weren't for Facebook, the mentionables wouldn't exist. So there's that. But at any rate, thumbs up for that one for me. Okay, next statement. By 2050, there will be a revival that will be counted among the Great Awakenings.
I'd like it to be true, but as the old saying goes, prophecy is always very difficult, or prediction is always very difficult, especially about the future. So I like it to be true, but I don't like people making these kinds of predictions and such, so I'm going to go thumbs down.
Okie doke. Caleb.
Yeah, I'm going to go thumbs down on this one, too. I just don't know.
Tyler?
So it's going to happen on July 17th, 2027. I thought
that's when the rapture was supposed to take place.
Well, clearly, no idea, no evidence to support that. So I'm going to do a thumbs down.
Okay. I mean, that's a 30-year period in which that could happen. But in my experience, 30-year predictions are almost entirely incorrect all the time.
Was this like a worldwide revival, or like America, or like Azusa Street coming back again? Was there like a geographical constraint here?
Well, it's a single sentence, and I read the sentence to you, so...
Well, I mean, in that case, my answer would have been no to all three of them anyways. But I just, for sake of clarity.
Anyway, I saw Blade Runner, and now it's 2019, and we don't have flying cars. As a matter of fact, every movie I've ever seen that took place, 2019 or before, had flying cars in it. None of them have ever come true. So I'm going to say no. 30-year predictions almost always do not come true.
I
So
played
thumbs down.
Chrono Trigger. The Day of Lavos was supposed to have taken place back in 1999, and somehow we survived.
Somehow. All right.
And we've lost our one listener.
I had to get my geek on, guys.
Sorry, Grandma.
No, I'm pretty sure our one listener is a geek. I've met him. I've talked to him. All right. So there's two more, and then we're good to go. Next one. The best video game console of the 1990s was the Super Nintendo.
Oh, yes. Yes, this one is definitely true. Final Fantasy IV, Chrono Trigger, Secret of Mana, Mario RPG. I mean, geez, the Super Nintendo had it all. Donkey Kong Country. A great book you can read on this is actually Console Wars, the war between Nintendo and Sega. Very interesting. But yeah, the Super Nintendo, and of course Link to the Past. Super Nintendo, that was the golden age of video games. So yes, thumbs up.
Okay, Caleb.
Ooh. Man, this is a hard one for me. Let's see. When did the Dreamcast hit? It was 99, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was in the 90s.
Dreamcast.
Yeah, the first
out for,
truly online console.
That was a thing?
It was out for like 2 weeks, and then it
Yeah,
went
Sega
under.
kind of killed itself with that one.
Yeah, but it was really good. But the SNES is still so good. Yeah, I'm gonna go thumbs up with this one.
Okie doke. Tyler?
I played Outside.
Is that a new game? I've never heard of that one.
Weirdo.
When did that game come out?
I played Outside, and I would have been like in my late teens for most of the 90s. So just to be contrarian, I'm going to say thumbs down because I have no idea what else was out
Did
there in the time
Outside
period. Thumbs down, big thumbs, dogmatic thumbs down.
did
Boo.
Outside come with an expansion pack? I've still never heard of this game.
It did came with an expansion pack. It was called Little League.
Really, I've never heard of that
Oh.
one either.
It was called turning 16 and getting a car.
True. Thumbs down. Boo.
All right, so I'm also going to give it a thumbs down, but that's because I'm a PC gamer from way back, and I never caught into no consoles.
I'm very sorry for your loss.
So sad.
So sad.
PC gaming was the best. All right, and then finally, interview shows are boring and overrated. Nick, what do you think about that one?
Since I have an interview show, I'm going to have to give it a thumbs down. Although there is one that can be pretty boring. Sometimes called the Mentionables or something. Anyway, they have this Tyler guy on there.
So here's the thing about the Mentionables podcast. They don't do interviews,
They don't.
which you would know if you'd listened to it.
They're discussions.
Yes.
Discussions are a
Boom.
kind of interview.
Nick Peters wrong again.
There's a first time for everything.
All right, Caleb, interview shows.
Yeah, strictly interview shows. I'm gonna say they are overrated. So I'm gonna go with a thumbs up on that one.
Okay. Things just got interesting. Tyler?
All right. Well, I've heard this podcast that Nick Peters is on the Deeper Waters, and it's an interview show, and it's terrible.
Tyler's body.
especially
You're not afraid to say it.
especially my 2 or 3 episodes that
I'll
I've been
grant
on
you both. Those were terrible episodes.
No, I actually think that that discussion shows tend to run ragged after a while. So I actually prefer interview shows. So I'm gonna. What is that? A thumbs up? Is it thumbs up if they're good or thumbs up if they're bad?
Thumbs up if they're bad.
No, I'm gonna give it thumbs down. I like interview shows. I like interview shows.
Okay, so I'm giving it a thumbs up because I appreciate getting to know people on shows and then hearing the people that I like and have gotten to know on the
Weirdo.
show. versus interview shows where I have to learn about a new guy every time and can't figure out whether I like him or not by the end of it.
You actually appreciate getting to know people?
Sorry?
Weirdo.
He's not an introvert like us.
Okay, and that was the end of Thumbs Up, Thumbs Down. At this point in the podcast, we're kicking it over to Nick Peters, who will be, just take over, Nick.
Yeah,
Tell us
so
what we're
I
doing.
had someone email me 6 different questions that he'd like to see Paul just discuss. This guy is a Christian, he says. And I suggested I'd share them with you all. You all have no knowledge of these questions, right?
Correct.
Yeah, no knowledge.
So I'm going to...
I swear.
Alright, so I'm pulling up these now. Each one of them comes with several subthreads to it and such. I may or may not read those. But I'll start with the first question broadly here. If God loves every individual he has ever made, why hasn't he undertaken the framing of the world in such a way that everyone has a clear and obvious justification presented to them that causes them to believe in Jesus Christ?
Love it. Okay, so Nick, since you read the question, we'll let you wrap up the thing, since I'm assuming you had time to think about it.
To think about it?
So we'll go in the order that we have been going, which goes Caleb, Tyler, and then me. And then Nick will wrap the question up.
All right.
Caleb.
Well, for this one, I think the answer is actually kind of already in the question there. Love is not something that can be forced or even placed with a high degree of certainty on somebody. Love is purely a choice. And so with that being the case, you can't manipulate someone's free will or even to the point of influencing that free will with any degree of certainty without eliminating love entirely from the equation. So a God who allows for love to exist, in my opinion, has to actually leave some room there so that it is a free will choice whether or not to love said deity.
Okay. That the
My
end
turn?
of your answer?
So
Yes.
now we're going to the Calvinist heretic here?
Yeah, I was gonna say Nick started with this question to out me from the very beginning as the Reformed Calvinist. Yeah, so I'm gonna say that there's 3 different parts to my answer. The first one is that I think everyone does know that God exists because Romans 1 tells us that He has in creation made His presence and His power known, and that we suppress the truth and righteousness. So that's the first one, is that everyone does know and have evidence that God exists. The second one is that I think sometimes we overestimate or misconstrue the love and the purposes of God, and we should consider passages that crop up all throughout the New Testament, relying on the book of Isaiah, that basically says that there are times where God actually intentionally suppresses the knowledge that He exists for people because otherwise they would turn and believe in Him. And I think sometimes that our theology drives us to think that God is just kind of this wooing, kind of incompetent lover who can't get everyone to love Him back. And then the other one is basically that I would fall back on divine providence, and Romans 9 tells us that God has prepared in advance before creation vessels for mercy and vessels for wrath, and that both are to His glory and for the edification of the objects of mercy. So. I would fall back on some of those theological distinctions.
If I could offer a little bit of pushback here at this point, we could say...
This is not a dialogue, Nick.
You could say everyone has knowledge that God exists, but the questioner could say, yeah, but not everyone has knowledge that Jesus Christ is Lord by general revelation. I think we'd all agree with that. So does that change your answer at all?
No, not really, because, depends on what you mean. Because, even in the story of Lazarus, Jesus basically has him say, they have Moses and the prophet. Even if someone were to rise from the dead, they wouldn't believe. And so there is a certain sense where reprobation is clearly seen throughout the scriptures. So, no, I think that the reprobate suppresses the truth of a God in righteousness. Full stop.
Okay. If everybody's finished there, I'll give my answer, and then Nick will do his. Okay, so this point was kind of made clear to me when I interacted with an atheist article in which the writer essentially said that the only way in which pain could ever be loving is if the pain led to the benefit of the person suffering. And so, I interacted with the article, and the conclusion I ultimately came to is that each individual, no matter what their life is like, if it's painful and ends in tragedy, or if it's generally good and ends with loved ones gathered around the deathbed, or whatever the case, that it is to the benefit of the individual, because the most profound thing, the most beneficial thing that could happen to an individual is that their life in some way glorifies God. And ultimately, every individual's life glorifies God, has eternal ramifications for the same reason that Tyler just mentioned, the vessels of wrath and vessels of mercy. The way in which an individual interacts with God in their life, whether they choose him or choose against him, assuming I can say that in the presence of a Calvinist, then they reveal some aspect of God because of the judgment that they receive, whether it's the mercy of God through Christ, or whether it's the judgment because of their refusal of the mercy of God. So, when they do that, some aspect of God's nature is revealed in the way in which they interact with him. If they're condemned in God's perfect justice, or if they're redeemed in God's perfect mercy and grace. So then they have had a beneficial life, because nothing in their life has been purposeless or meaningless. It has been deeply meaningful because some aspect of God's nature is revealed through their life. Even if the person does not ultimately end up in, say, heaven under the grace of God, they still have had a meaningful existence.
And now I guess I'm the last one here, so now I will give an answer, and I have to give the correct answer to the question here.
Okay.
I know you all have been wondering. Well, one of the things I think that comes to my mind with this is often God's treated like the answer to a trivia question, where it's, if did you get the answer right, God exists, yay, you passed the quiz, and such. But that's not the way it's supposed to be. I think God doesn't just want us to know that he exists and that Jesus is his son. I think he wants us to want that, as it were. It's kind of like in a marriage, each spouse doesn't just want the other spouse to know it, hey, I exist, okay? They want the other spouse to want them for them, and to know them like that, to love them, not because they feel like they have to, not because, we're married, so I kind of have to love you and such, but because of who they are, and they genuinely want to. And I think if God reveals too much of himself to people, or too much of Jesus to people like this, he removes any impetus of that on our part. If he gives too little, there's too much going on. I think God's given the Goldilocks thing of just right. And I think God ultimately will also judge people based on the light that they have. I think we see this happen in Scripture. Old Testament saints, for instance, they don't have to believe in Jesus, as it were, but they trust in what God had revealed to them at that point. And I think if someone truly is seeking God, God has the means to get to them. We've heard stories, I'm sure, of missionaries who've gone to visit cultures, and these cultures say, we've had a story told to us that one day people would arrive with a book, and this book would be the story of the one true God. I've heard those stories before, and there are also accounts in the Muslim world of people having dreams where Jesus appears to them. These dreams are happening so often that some Christians even took out this ad in an area where there were a lot of Muslims and put a picture of Jesus up there and said, has this person appeared in your dreams? If so, call this number. We laugh, it really happened. And they really got responses because this is happening on a daily basis practically. I think Tom Doyle is doing a lot of work on this one. I hope I got the name. I've actually reached out to him to see if he could be on my show sometime and such. So this is happening.
You have a show?
Yeah. Just like the Minstrels are supposed to actually have a show. I don't think they've ever done one before, but it'd be kind of nice if they did. But
Would it? Would you listen to it if they did?
Probably not. Because they got this title guy on there, and I think he doesn't know what he's talking about. But, I mean, this stuff is happening. People are being reached. I think it's necessary. I think even Tyler would agree from a Calvinist perspective that even if people are going to be reached anyway, that still doesn't debar us from going out and doing evangelism, because evangelism could be the means by which people get reached. I think there needs to be kind of both perspectives. Trust in that people will be reached as if you were a Calvinist, but then do all the work that you can as if you were an Arminian. It's kind of a metaphor of a parallel of what St. Augustine said. Pray as if everything depended on God, work as if everything depended on you. At least I've been told that's what he said. So that's my answer. And by the way, I think everyone should know, just in case we have to wrap things up soon, such that I also affirm the virgin birth.
We were worried about that.
So are you a universalist? Is that what I'm hearing?
No, that's Tyler.
No, I'm pretty sure he's made it very, very clear that that's not what he is.
True.
But he
Ostensibly
hasn't
so.
made it clear that he affirms the virgin birth, which I do affirm.
Everybody's got a shtick. Maybe I should get one.
You already have one, Joe. It's making the rest of us look good, which you do a great job of, by the way.
Look at me, I'm blushing.
I think it's self-sacrificial, but so self-sacrificial, and Joe probably comes on here just to make the rest of us look good by comparison.
Shucks, fellas.
All right. Question 2. Nick, lay it on us.
I thought we were going to do one question per night or so. Okay, let me pull it back up again here, Ben.
Wait, one question a night? Does that mean you'd be open to multiple recordings?
Yeah?
I got to talk with you more than once.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, wow, this is a first. We're actually having Tyler and Nick on the same podcast.
I think we actually could.
I imagine we're going to have massive technical difficulties in this.
Yeah,
I think we actually could do multiple podcasts if you guys are interested in it.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, we can do it.
Works for me.
But we're here. Maybe we knock out one or two more since we're already here.
We'll go for one more question, and then we'll save the rest for another time. Because there's
All right, sounds good.
6 of them, I think. Yeah, 6 questions. Okay. Next question here. As soon as I can find them. What is the hard evidence for the believability of a biblical account, and why is this enough evidence to believe with any degree of confidence that the Christian God exists? I.e., with enough confidence to say that it is more likely that a Christian God exists than he does not. Why don't we accept similar evidence provided for religious and extraordinary claims other than those contained in the Bible?
Okay, so Caleb.
Oh boy, great! I get thrown this one first. Kind of the main point I would want to make to this question in talking with someone is, what do you mean by evidence? Hard evidence is often, at least from atheists, referred to as, only empirical scientific evidence. So we're looking at a very narrow field of evidence compared to what I would actually define evidence as. You have circumstantial evidence, you have testimonial evidence, you have historical evidence, you have archaeological evidence, you have scientific evidence, and you may even have philosophical or moral evidence. So I think in looking at evidence, you actually have to consider whether the cumulative case for a worldview supports a given worldview. So if we were to take one of any of those pieces of evidence, we may have the strongest support for a given worldview. But if we look at the cumulative case of all the evidence we can muster, then what worldview best explains all that evidence? Mm-hmm. And I think that's the only way we can go about actually making a case with evidence for a given worldview. If we look at only one piece of it, we're narrowing down. We can make good cases for certain pieces of a worldview, but to narrow it down to hard evidence, tends to make me think that's kind of the atheistic version of the question, and that you're just looking at scientific empirical evidence for a given belief. Now, if we had to look at one piece of evidence that strongly supports Christianity, then we have to look at the accounts, the gospel accounts, which are our eyewitness testimony of the life and times of Jesus of Nazareth. And if his resurrection is true, then Christianity is true. So that's just one piece of hard evidence that I would challenge people to consider.
Okay, Tyler.
I'll make mine very, very brief, since I think there's evidence for the reliability of the Scripture against specific challenges, like Caleb was mentioning. But I would fall under the presuppositional view that says that in order for us to even challenge the reliability of the Scriptures, the opponent, the challenger, actually needs to presuppose the existence of God as the necessary precondition for logic and rationality, anyways. And so, in a sense, in order to question the Scriptures, you already need to assume the existence of the God of the Scriptures. And so that's how I would go after that question.
Okay, so now it's me, and I'm going to give Nick's answer. So when I was sitting down to try to figure out the apologetics class that I was going to teach for my church for the early adults, I had to decide, in the course of a single class, what's the one apologetic argument I want to have. And it occurs to me that when it comes to falsifiability, the thing that Christianity has in its favor that other religions don't is that there is a physical evidence of God's existence in the form of a physical person, and the acts that person did, and these are falsifiable things that one can study and come to the conclusion. So there's the parable of the invisible gardener, which says that if you look at an orderly system, in this case a garden, and there's no gardener to be found, how is that different than there actually being no gardener? And what Christianity has in its favor is that there is a physical Messiah, and there are accounts of the Messiah that can be studied and falsified. So ultimately, that's what I did. I did the argument from the historical Jesus and the resurrection, which is the second part of that question: what separates Christianity from other religions is that it actually does have historical accounts beyond, say, just Buddha or Muhammad teaching about their religious system, which is otherwise invisible and unfalsifiable. All right, Nick.
Some of you probably know I knew Nabil Qureshi in person back in the day when he was still with us, and it's such a great loss that we don't have him anymore. So I've heard this from Gary Habermas and Mike Licona as well. But you can find it in Nabil's book, Seeking Allah, Finding Jesus, where when he was still Muslim, and he was talking to people like Mike and Gary, and said, well, what did you think? And he said, well, you all have the resurrection of Jesus. You got a good case for that, but that's about all you've got. And he said, that's all we need. And I think that's what it comes down to. What makes Christianity different is we have a resurrection. I say, well, don't you think you should treat other accounts outside the Bible with regards to extraordinary claims in such the same way? Absolutely. My standard is very simple. Bring me good, hard evidence for the claims, and I'll believe him. I have no problem with, say, a miracle happening in another religion. That's just fine with me. Why would I have a problem? I have a God who works miracles. He could work a miracle for any number of reasons in another religion. It could be a dark power working a miracle for some reason. Who knows? But it could happen. And when I dialogue now with Mormons, for instance, I'll say, okay, or Muslims, and I'll say, okay, let's take this. Let's take your book and see what scholars who disagree with your book will grant you and say about your book. Now let's do the same thing with mine, and let's see which one holds out better. And, of course, the Bible holds out better. I mean, even skeptics who don't believe the Bible but are scholars, they'll grant many things are historical in the Bible. Yes, atheists out there, scholars actually do agree that Jesus existed. So that's my answer, that what makes the Bible much more believable is because of Jesus.
Okay, so listeners, tune in next time for additional questions and answers. That seems to be the mentionable shtick, is, questions and answers. But we're dropping that segment. And, fellas, we got a conference coming up. You heard of this?
I hadn't even heard about
Sure
the
hope so.
podcast.
Yeah, so both of our listeners should check out our conference. So let's see what's going on in this conference. Well, the feature event in the conference is, let's save that for the end, because that's the juicy nugget. So, Nick, you're doing two things in the conference. Want to tell us about those?
Yes, I'm going to be doing a karaoke act there, and then I'm going to be doing a juggling act.
Oh, great. Now nobody's going to attend the conference.
So your normal talks then?
Yeah. Yeah, actually, I'm doing a talk on the historicity of the resurrection of Jesus in this tiny little minor point. And then...
About time you talked about that.
Yeah. And then for the second one, it's going to be me up there, along with the most beautiful person in the world, who isn't me, actually.
I didn't know I was doing a segment with you.
No, sorry, Joe, but you're far from it. But my lovely wife is going to be joining me. She's awfully nervous about things, but a lot of people are saying, oh, you can handle this, it'll be good for you, and such. But we are going to be giving a talk on the church and mental illness, and about what it's like for us having Asperger's and other things, and how the church really needs to step up its game here. And if anyone says anything negative about my wife up there, well, no one's going to miss you anyway.
No doubt. All right, so Nick is doing a thing. I intend to attend, and I'm going to be doing a thing. Oscillated between doing a talk and a breakout session. Right now it's a breakout session. I am going to be talking about Christianity among the religions. The reason I'm talking about that is that anybody who follows the mentionables will know that we have about 50% of our questions being, if there are other religions out there, how can you be sure that Christianity is true? And that particular question has about 50 different flavors, but it all basically boils down to that. I'm going to be looking at the question and looking at a variety of the different ways in which it's asked. So, for instance, if you were born in another country, you'd belong to the religion of that country. That object, or the outsider test of faith, which essentially says that you should look at your faith with the same skepticism that you look at other faiths, and you would end up denying Christianity. And so I'll be looking at that because apparently it's a very popular objection.
Yeah.
I'd like
Who was it that had an objection? I didn't think he was anyone that was well known or anything like that.
I don't know. Richard Dawkins?
Well, that's Dawkins.
Maybe.
Must be him. That's the only atheist I know.
Okay. Am I allowed to pick hello to your talk?
I think you're going to be doing your own talk. And I've heard from the most beautiful person in the world that you snore.
I'm not going to deny it.
Right. Okay, so Caleb, what are you doing at the conference?
I will be watching the Hopeful live stream.
Well, it's good to have one person watching our live stream.
There you go, at least one, right?
Absolutely. You and I will listen to this podcast when it launches, and that'll be our entire audience right there.
Probably
okay, and then
so.
the feature of the event of the conference, Tyler.
I'll be doing a couple things. I'll be giving a talk on slavery in the Bible and the ancient Near East, and dealing with that objection that we commonly get that the Bible condones and endorses slavery. How could that's so immoral?
It does.
So I'll be addressing that.
Cool, I'm going to make Joe a slave right now.
Yeah. I heard you were bringing a pillow, Nick, so I'll be all set. And then the other thing that I'm doing is we have slated Aaron Ra for the featured debate. So I will be in debate with Aaron Ra, dealing with the question if Christianity has been historically in conflict with science, and he'll be taking the affirmative and I'll be taking the negative.
All right. So,
Yeah.
Run Raw. That's a name.
Yeah.
All right. Well, listeners, attend the conference. It's going to be a good one. And that's pretty much the closing of the podcast. We have a book in which everyone on this podcast participated in writing. It's called The Mentionable Project. It's available on Amazon and Kindle. And so if you like what you heard, then read that. Also, we have a regular YouTube show, The Mentionables TV, and right now we're going through a video titled 7 Signs That You Might Be an Atheist One Day. And we're looking at each of those signs and analyzing them. Again, 3 of the 4 of us are participating in that project. Nick, what's up with you and not participating in anything?
I haven't been able to learn everything about my webcam and such, and you'll just need to tell me more often when you do these things.
Well, I do my best. Anyway, so that's the thing, and yeah, so we've got a lot of media outlets. Check them out. So that's been us. Keep on listening and keep on mentioning.